Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Counter, presented by KaiString. I'm your host, Vicente Yañez. This is the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of retail technology to talk about what's trendy, what's happening, what's hot, from the voices of the people who live and breathe this every day.
Yes.
So most of our clients are thinking about transformation in the store, right? They're coming up with these new technologies, new platforms that they want to use.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, not a lot of times, a big part of this project doesn't end with the selection of a new point of sale, right? Once we have it, how do I shut my lights one day and I wake up the next one with my new platform on?
Yeah.
There is a lot of work involved into deploying everything that needs to be in place to have my new application, my new platform running.
Yes.
Today with us, we have Paul Russell, Executive Vice President of Sales from Crosscom, a company who pretty much does that and takes charge of that. How are you, Paul?
Yes, I'm great. Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
No, thank you for being here. We love it. We love these conversations.
Yeah.
So, from that perspective, because it's a very interesting niche that you guys have. We were talking a little bit before the beginning of this. Given me the use case that you guys work on, that's a little bit different than the usual. Okay, you have your fleet. I help you monitor it, right?
Yep.
So what's the one challenge that you normally see working with clients, or friction or problematic point working with you guys? Whenever you approach a client and tell you, okay, this is the thing that I need to fix the most.
Yeah.
Is there such thing?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean that's a difficult question to ask, just because, like I said, I mean retailers have a whole host of friction points.
Yes.
There's a lot of challenges in this day and age. Some of the biggest challenges are just budgetary constraints. You know, everybody's trying to do more with less.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they've got legacy equipment that's out in the field. You're trying to parts manage. How do I put all these new applications? If you walk through this show today, you're going to see everything from robotics to AI-driven platforms, new software, new security, all these different technologies that they're trying to implement. How do I drive a better customer experience? How do I drive more efficient sales processes? And exactly what you said whenever we first kicked this off. How do you flip that light switch? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times you're putting these new applications onto existing hardware platforms, and you've got these tech stacks that they were never designed to run an AI application.
Yes.
Right? So you've got bolt-on, you've got all these different things. So there's a lot of challenges, and exactly what you said. Our company, what we do is we'll work with organizations like KiteString. Mm-hmm. We will work with direct end user organizations to help develop what does that architecture really need to look like at the end of the day. And then once they make that decision, okay, here's the hardware that I want to have in my environment. Here's the software that I want to be using to drive the customer experience, or the point of sale platforms, or whatever that may be. Then that's where we come into play. So we'll help kind of merge those two things together. Mm-hmm. We can run testing, we can run script analysis, we can do all these things on the back end, and then help them be able to, hey, we're going to flip that light switch, but what oftentimes they don't realize is that you're going to have maybe 6 months behind the curtain before that light switch actually gets
One of our architects calls that the messy middle.
That's a great, I love hearing that.
Because it is exactly as you describe it. Like, it would be nice if it was something like, okay, I close store today with my legacy system, and tomorrow I wake up with a new one and everything just flows fine.
Yep.
But a lot of the times is running the two systems side by side. And all of what that entails, from the back office, for my home office systems, for my reconciliation, finances, all of that. But also, what does that do to my store footprint whenever I need to run those two systems? Do I have the space? Beyond the physical constraints, also the logistic constraints about that. Yep. So what is one misconception that your clients have whenever working with you guys, whenever you first have that engagement?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest misconception is just the fact that they can just flip that light switch. Yeah. Right? So even from a consumer perspective, we're all driven right now on, we want immediate action. Yeah. We just want something to work. We want it to work correctly. Yeah. We want it to work whenever we want it to work. I mean, there's no drive for any of us to say, hey, let's take a step back, hold on a bit. It just doesn't happen, right? No. I mean, a 15-year-old kid now can write an entire website in a matter of minutes with some of the tools that are out there. So what's going to drive, what's going to make me any different whenever I talk about, hey, I want to buy something new to implement into my retail environment? I just want to buy it and make it work. So I think part of the misconception is the legwork and the transactions that have to take place, like you said, in the development, in the planning for that. Right. And so sometimes they're a little frustrated because they find out, okay, well, I made the purchase. I cut a purchase order to my systems integrator or whoever. Why can't I just have it tomorrow?
Yeah.
You
have to wait 6 to 9 months because there is a lot of work that needs to happen.
Yeah.
In order for you to be successful, safe, to reduce that risk. For us, for example, whenever we get to the implementation phase, normally it's about managing that risk.
Yes.
How much we can do up front, so the day that we actually will go to pilot, everything runs smoothly.
Yep.
Not just because software development finished and we pass all of the test cases, which I want to circle back to that you mentioned, that you guys can run scripts to ensure that resiliency, because to me, if we have a platform that is able to, if you can just click one button and get a green light to say, you're going to be good tomorrow, and actually be good tomorrow, that's an ideal state, right?
Yep.
So if you want to elaborate more on that, like how do you guys approach that problem?
Yeah. Well, so let me take a step back. So
Sure.
I think one of the other misconceptions is that, hey, once I get whatever I just decided to buy, or, if I'm a retailer, let's say I'm a convenience store, and I've decided, I've put a year, maybe a couple of years into my life, developing or planning, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
The other misconception oftentimes is that another year from now, whenever everything's actually implemented into my store environment, that's going to be a great state to be in, because sometimes that hardware, that software is already outdated. Sometimes by the time we start our positioning, right, there's great companies like that are out there helping do that architecture, and they stay on top of the times, they stay on top of the technologies. But again, technology changes quick.
Yes.
If you look through the show floor today, I mean, the things that we're seeing in 2026 aren't even in the same categorization as what some of the things that we saw in 2025, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another big misconception. But, going back to how our organization, really implements that change, the biggest thing that we focus on is, number one, the accuracy. We've got to make sure that we've got really good controls in place.
Love that.
Yes, because if you don't have good change control, it's broken.
Yeah.
Something else is the logistics model. A lot of times people don't think about the amount of the logistics planning, just making sure, an old colleague of mine used to always say, if the logistics are broken, nothing's going to work right. And he's absolutely correct.
Agreed.
And that's something that we spend a lot of time, resource and planning, is making sure that the logistics are set up, are in place, are tested and proven workflows. And then really it's just speed to market. Let's get this out there, get it implemented, make sure it's correct, but then let's get it out there as quickly as possible, because we want our retail customers to be able to start using that as quickly as they possibly can, because we know another year from now something's going to change, and they're going to have to already be planning on something else.
Yeah, and I have heard that specific quote directly from one of our clients. Like, the moment I'm going to install this, I'm going to start looking for what's next.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
I'm not even done with the rollout. I'm not even done with my MVP one, if you will, but I'm already thinking forward to what it is. And for example, payments is one that comes to mind all the time, right? Like the specification of PCI and the security around it.
Yep.
It's always changing, and it feels, and I think for the good reasons, that we are always lagging behind.
Yep.
We're always trying to chase that ideal state of security.
Yes.
Because it has to balance, right? The lifetime, the shelf life of my hardware product versus my investment versus the return of that investment as a retailer or as a company, right? I find that balance almost an art form.
Yes.
To be able to do that and manage those expectations.
I agree. Yeah, it's funny you say that. We talk about it being an art. It has to be choreographed just correct. Just right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Especially you bring in logistics. Like, I wasn't aware until very recently. It was just not in the frame of my mind, right? Like, I work in application development. I'm systems engineer there. I wasn't aware on how much time it takes to replace something. Like, it has to go from either from the OEM directly to a distribution center to my warehouse, and then from there to the store.
Yep.
Or OEM direct to store, but then you have to take the other one. Or there is an upgrade, a physical upgrade that needs to happen on a piece of hardware. You have to take it out, have the new one in, or whatever you're going to have in the meantime, and then ship it back to. There is a lot of back and forth.
Yeah,
involved.
tremendous amount. Yep.
And planning for that. What is one technology or one advancement in the industry that Crosscom works in that you think might be just hype versus one that is actually going to be a game changer?
So let me tell you what I think is hype.
Okay.
What I think is hype is probably one of the things that could very well be one of the biggest game changers, and that's the drone delivery.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a fantastic one.
yeah. So
Love it.
you're looking at stuff like that, and I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of drones. Right?
Okay.
I love drones. I love everything that flies, and
Love
so that's a passion of mine. And whenever I first saw, Walmart and Kroger and some of the big retailers trying to figure out how do I use these to get products to homes quicker. At first I was like, come on, somebody just has a passion for drones and they wanted an excuse to fund it through work, right?
Bigger drone.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you're looking at some of these things. Now, at the end of the day, that could also be one and the same. That could also be one of the biggest industry changers. One of the things that I looked at over at the T-Mobile booth, for example, this week was drones that actually, very sad incident was the flooding that happened in Texas earlier last year.
Yes.
So you look at that and they actually have a drone that can fly over a group of people and actually take diagnostics of those people from the drone. So they can actually see, okay, based on their temperature, based on how their appearance, how they look, they've got AI applications that they can actually prioritize and say, hey, these 3 people, we need to focus on getting them picked up first if they're in an emergency situation. So I would say at first I was looking at drones as kind of being a hype, thinking that's probably never really going to take off. And from an actual delivery perspective, I think it's a really cool concept. I think that there's still going to be a lot of changes that we see over the next few years. And that's really probably where some of the retailers are investing the money, is they know maybe that's not the end state,
Yes. Yes.
But, to be able to get somebody's medication to them quicker in a matter of minutes versus somebody that's maybe sick at home having to drive into a retail or a pharmacy department. So I would say that started off kind of being what I thought was the biggest hype. But at the same time, I really do feel like now it's probably going to be a huge game changer.
I like that. No, I love that perspective. I hadn't thought about that. But you're absolutely right on we live in Northwest Arkansas.
Yep.
So we're right there in Walmart's backyard.
Yep.
So we saw the drone stuff because it was like a thing very, very local to us.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought about the fact, and you're absolutely right, because we see it in other technologies, other platforms, that what we are seeing right now is not going to be the end state. Coming up with these ideas of how else can we help people?
Yep.
How else can we make an impact, a positive impact? That use case that you described about the drones helping survey this situation and just having extra technology to aid in these dire circumstances. And we're talking here an extreme situation, right? But a couple of years ago in a tech summit, they were presenting these drones, smaller ones, that can assess structural damage to buildings after certain situations or just aged structures, right? And they can go and do a very good model. So you can send your surveyor maybe avoid sending a human live to a place that potentially could be, catastrophic consequences. But that blade edge balance between, okay, we didn't go anywhere versus look how it has changed culture.
Yep.
That's what do you think would help drive that transformation or that extra step?
Well, I think part of it is just people thinking about where else can this be used.
Yes.
A lot of it just comes from somebody's idea. Talking about drones, we've got a partnership with an organization right now that's using security drones inside of like schools.
Okay.
And schools and churches and businesses, more on like an office level complex, and something that can help deter activations that are potentially happening that are negative. So I think that it really just comes with people that just have these ideas. Where else can this be used? And as we continue to see the advancements in some of these AI drivers, and being able to autonomously develop these applications that are making decisions that a human doesn't actually have to interact with.
Right.
So I think part of this just comes naturally. And then I think part of what's going to drive it to the next level is really just, where else can this be used?
Yeah. And we see it, right? Specifically about AI, because that's a hot topic everyone wants to figure out.
Yep.
I think we have right now this incredible, great tool where you're trying to find the proper niches in which, because I don't think it's going to be one single use case, just like the drones example. There's so many applications at a smaller scale versus a large, big bang one, right? But we're thinking of them in smaller terms. I think that's also where AI could potentially be truly transformative and be a game changer, right?
Yep.
Are you guys already looking into integrating some of that into your services, into your work?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you're talking about AI in general. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody that's not looking at AI right now is probably
lagging behind horribly. Absolutely,
you're going to be hurting. I think the big thing for our company and really what we're focusing on is how can we continue to use AI to drive us to be better, right? How can we be more efficient? How can we be better? So we're not looking at AI as how are we going to take over the world,
right?
We're looking at it as, how can we drive better business outcomes? How can we drive a better relationship? How at the end of the day, like some of the conversational AIs, I was looking at some of the point of sale platforms and some of the software that even KiteString has here in the booth. And to be able to look at, as I onboard a new cashier,
right?
How do I shorten that time frame? I remember, gosh, I started working at a grocery store in high school. And the part of the training process was you spent about 2 weeks working with somebody and they were teaching you, here's how to use the point of sale system, right? You don't have to do that anymore.
Nope.
And it's so quick and easy. Well, I say it's easy. There's still a lot to it, obviously.
Yeah.
But to be able to build out SOPs, to be able to have video integration into a point of sale, for example, that says, hey, if I get stuck on something, I no longer have to pick up a phone, call somebody, wait a couple minutes for them to walk from the back of the store. Right there, I can click a button and say, I need help. And guess what? I've got help.
Oh, this is how you do it.
Like, yes, exactly.
Through the application to do it.
Yep. So we're doing some of the same things, on our organization. How do we help our help desk?
Yeah.
Instead of having a chat tool where, I've got a help desk associate, used to, if they got stuck, if I'm talking to a technician or if I'm talking to a store employee and I got stuck and I could say, okay, I know I've got a document that's 86 pages. I can either sit here and read all this and try to figure out again where it was, or the way that we were operating a few years back was even get on a chat tool and, hey, does anybody remember where this was at? We're trying to figure it out.
Right.
Now, literally, I can load all those documents into my help desk portal and I can go through and I can say, show me what are the 5 steps to install this device or what are the troubleshooting. And literally within a half a second, I've got everything that I need. I'm helping. So now I'm driving what used to maybe be a 12-minute conversation, and then it turned into an 8-minute conversation. Now I can potentially have either a 2-minute conversation or one of the things that my company's doing really, really well is helping that AI-driven platforms even out to like some of our field associates to be able to say, hey, you can call into me, but guess what? I'm going to give this to you at your fingertips.
Sure.
And just make it so much easier. And then we can capture deliverables. We can make sure that everything's operating correctly before they leave. So there's just so many benefits.
But I want to translate all of these use cases that you're mentioning. To me, in my mind, what all of this means is that now I'm making humans, all of the people involved in all of these loops, be better.
Exactly.
Right? That's what you described. Like, for example, your help desk associate, that means that they have a shorter, less frustrating time in a job that might be frustrating by nature, right? Because you're helping people that need help.
Yes.
They don't call the help desk just to see how you're doing.
Correct.
They call because they already have something that needs to be addressed now.
Yep.
But if you can help them get those answers quickly, it's also more satisfactory for me as a professional working this job to be able to help.
Yes.
That's what I am in the help desk. From a customer standpoint or from the cashier standpoint, right? I can do my job better, especially in companies or industries in which they have high rotation.
Yep.
Right? You have people, I think that has changed, culturally has changed.
Yeah.
Who wants to work at a store? And who wants to work at a store? It's not a question. I'm saying, like, who are the profiles of the people going to work in a store?
Yep.
Right? We have high school kids that will do some temp job over the summer. They're not going to spend 3 months of that summer trying to learn your point of sale platform and all of your store operations, right?
Yep.
You have this technology that can help them be effective with the platform from day one.
Yes.
So then I can focus on the stuff that I'm doing here in the store and maybe give them a different perspective of what does it mean to do a service job,
yes,
right? To be in the service industry.
Yep.
Thinking of it also from restaurants in which I don't have to fight the technology.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's here with me, and the things that I do not know, I have this extra layer that can help.
Yes.
Me. I love the fact that you guys giving it to your field people for the same reasons. If I'm talking with someone that can help me address the situation, because I feel like Crosscom and KiteString are in the same situation of we help our clients interact with a bunch of other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
We are that sidecar for them.
Correct.
So the more tools I have at my disposal to serve that client better, that's the best outcome for me.
Yes.
The way I think about it.
Yeah, I think we're exactly aligned because, I'm not looking at AI, how do I replace people? I'm looking at AI. How do I make my people better? And how do I make it enjoyable? It's really difficult because the company that I represent, Crosscom, so half of our business today is what we consider break fix or maintenance services.
Okay.
So we're getting a call whenever something is broken. Okay. There's nothing more frustrating than something being broken in a retail environment. We all know that. And so whenever we get that call, how do we help provide a quicker support? Right. How do we get something resolved to where now it's going to be resolved for good, and it's just not just a temporary fix? So we're doing some of those things. So customer experience to us is very, very important. So it's not about how do I eliminate people and flip that over to machine, because we've been focused on machine learning for a long time, you know, and AI is really just the next iteration of machine learning, right? And so we've already been focused on it. It's more about how do I improve that customer experience so that, hey, if Joe or if Sally at this C-store or at this restaurant or at this retail environment has to call in, or if they have to chat, or if they have to send a note, you know, we want them to know, hey, we hear you, we understand what's going on, we can identify the situation with limited, or what I would say more limited information from them, and we're going to resolve it. We're going to make your life okay. And I think that that's the big thing, is that it helps us be a better extension, you know, to our customers.
Agreed. Because friction doesn't, to me it's like physics. Friction is not created or destroyed. It just translates from place to place.
Exactly.
Right? So it's going to be there sometime. But if you can, whenever that friction happens, if you can get out of it faster, then your whole life is way better, right? Especially for retailers. You're going to it's going to happen. How do I move forward for it? So let's start taking a look at the future. Right? We talk where we are. What is your positive outcome 10 years in the future? Where do you think where we'll be? Where do you see this transformation space, this integration space between retailers and their new technologies or the transformation programs? All of these are sometimes like once in a lifetime change for people, right? For the people running these programs, it's like, okay, this is a career-defining moment. Adding a lot of stake here on what does it mean to translate and to deploy a new platform. But where do you think this is going? What is your positive view there?
Yeah, so I've got several. I would say, so everybody a few years ago was talking about the frictionless experience, right? And I hated that buzzword. Like the first couple months I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I used it. And then I was like, you know what? Everybody uses it. And nobody even really knew what it meant, right? And so if I look at 10 years from now, what do I hope that retail looks like? The way that you shop and how you want to shop and how you want to interact is probably totally different than me. The way that my wife would want to, the way that my kids would want to, the way that my parents would want to shop, we're all going to have our unique experiences. And I think that that's something that retailers struggle with right now is how do they adapt to each person and in each experience? I mean, heck, for me, the way that I want to shop this morning is probably totally different how I want to shop this afternoon. I change. And so I think from 10 years from now, what I look for and what I hope for, and I think it's going to happen, is to have a more user-friendly experience. You know, I hope for the fact that you can shop the way that you want to shop at the exact same retailer that I shop at. And guess what? Even though I'm different, we both have a positive experience. You know, so I think that that's kind of my vision for the future. And I think AI and some of these applications, some of these tools are going to change that. They will play a part
for sure.
Yeah, but that's my hope.
I would love that. I would, because I like to, whenever I think about retail technology, right, spend a lot of time doing that. From an engineering perspective, I like to consider also the cultural impact, the social impact, right? Generations, it bugs me a lot whenever someone comes with a great idea that did not account for every single customer out there. Like that isn't, you're alienating some part of your customer base. And, or if it's something optional and some of your people can take advantage of it, that's great. Because you are adding a benefit for those who want to take advantage of it. But whenever you try to impose something into those customers and affect the way they want to interact with your brand, with your company, with your stores, that's unnecessary. To me, that's unnecessary and shouldn't happen at all. Right? That's a lot of the stuff that I think from our standpoint, at least from my standpoint, we want to, or I want to make sure that it happens. Right? When I'm thinking of a new solution or I'm looking at a new platform, or like, even from a cashier standpoint, I get that. I have gotten this feedback before. This UI that you guys design, stuff that I designed, work fantastic for my younger kids because they don't need glasses. But my senior cashiers, they couldn't see properly this thing.
Yeah.
Like, didn't think about that. I'm sorry, let me fix it. Let me make it more accessible, more useful for everyone.
Yep.
So, and this is just a very silly example, right? One thing, but in general, that translates also to demographics, to age ranges, to generations, to where we are in the country. Geographical factors also play a part.
Yep.
Which store it is, what time of the day it is. I really like that example. Like coming here in the morning, I'm in the rush to get here.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna pick up something or store something online, I want it to be ready for whenever I get to the place that I'm going, pick it up, move on.
Yep.
But in the afternoon, I'm more at a leisure time. Maybe you can just like relax a little bit, browse around. I'm okay to sit here for a few minutes while it's getting ready or being picked up.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's face it, we're all going to have a different experience, right? And exactly what you just talked about. I mean, it's not just the consumer base. It's how do I make my employees happier?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big challenge, for especially in the retail environment. Yeah. One of the things that I love going into a store and talking to somebody that's friendly to me. That, listen, I don't care if you don't know where the pickles are and I ask you, who cares?
Yeah.
But if you're rude to me, I do care,
yeah.
right? And so it's exactly what you're talking about. How do I make sure that all of my employees are happy? How do I make sure that my employees within a retail environment have the tools that they need to be successful? It's the same thing I talked about with my company. We've got to be able to drive that. We've got to be able to drive not only the customer experience, but also the associate experience.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yep.
And we can continue going on here forever. But bringing back to the talking with an associate or someone in the store that is just nice and they like their job, they feel comfortable enough to be relaxed with you as a customer.
Yep.
I think that's where brand loyalty starts.
Yes.
For example, my younger granddaughter, she likes to go to specific convenience store because she likes the slushies, right? She's not old enough to have a mobile app on her phone to get rewards or points or anything like that.
Yep.
But she's loyal to the brand already, right?
Yeah.
Because she likes this, she likes the experience of going in. And what does that do for anyone, right? But the same thing applies for example, my father-in-law. He likes his preferred stores in places in town just because of that. He gets in and, hey, how are you doing? And very great interaction, right? Technology should always serve that to me. Then there's always for people.
Yes, exactly.
Just in the interest of time here, any final thoughts you want to share?
Gosh, so I've had a really great experience this year at NRF. And one of the things that I would love to just kind of give a plug to is the fact that every year at NRF, it feels like there's a few new buzzwords. There's a few things that people are talking about. Like right now, even last year, I remember I did some analytics behind the scenes on how many folks are actually talking about AI.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about AI. Now, how many folks actually had something to present about AI? At the time, really not that many.
Right.
They were saying, oh, AI is the wave of the future. How's that going to be used? We don't know yet.
But it will be there.
But it will be there. I got to say, this year, I feel like I'm seeing with my eyes more ways that people have actually engaged with some of these technologies. People are doing that. A lot of the questions that we're getting, and we've had great experience with our retail prospects and our customers that are coming by. Whenever we talk at our booth and we're going through our reporting platforms and we're talking about the visibility, because let's face it, a company like mine, a lot of our services are being commoditized.
Yeah.
But what they're seeing is, hey, some of these soft costs, some of the things that we're able to say, hey, listen, I get, running a data cable, installing a piece of equipment, even the break fix to some degree is becoming commoditized. But what they're asking for now is, how do I know? Like, how do I get that data? How do I integrate these systems so that everything that you're doing in the field, I can now run that through my system, and we can track warranties. We can track specific analytics on device types. Are there certain softwares? Are there changes that are having to take place that we need to be aware of? So those are some of the things that really excites me this year is, number one, just actually seeing some of these things being implemented. And then number two, having really good interaction with our customers that are out there that are truly impressed and that are invested in the fact that the amount of data and how you're transitioning this technology to be that customer experience. It's absolutely been fantastic. I love it.
What you're describing to me, it sounds like you are taking this commodity thought that I need to take care of my hardware to something that they can start action on.
Yes.
In the future, maybe predict, prevent, but also start allowing them to think different to their own store, which every solution or every thing out there that allows a retailer to do that gives them the opportunity to do more with, I think that's invaluable.
Yes.
Because You're absolutely right. There is this thought that certain parts of my process can be delegated, can be automated, can be thrown away by someone else because I don't have the people, I don't have the interest. My forte as a company is not on that.
Yep.
But if suddenly you offer to me something back that is not just what you said, that here is a little extra service, there is this other layer that you can take advantage on, okay, then we're cooking because now I'm thinking of my business in a total different dimension or from a different viewpoint.
Yes.
And I really, really like that. That's a fantastic insight.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of excitement for me. I think there's a lot of excitement from the folks that I've met with at this year's show. So yeah, let's see where it goes.
Great. Paul, I want to thank you very much. This was a really great conversation.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate the invite. It's been great.
No, I love it. And
awesome.
we should have you back.
Yes.
Have
Let me know.
Conversation 6 months down the road to see where we got right and what we got wrong
Yep.
on our predictions here.
I'll be there to talk through it.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.